Hi, everybody. It's me, Kaylee McMahon, with the podcast Number One Leading Ladies, a podcast by women for women, where we focus on bringing each other up instead of tearing each other down. Today, we have a special guest, Polina Groman, and I'm going to let her introduce herself because I won't do it justice.
Hey guys, super excited to be here. Anything that I could do to support women, I'm always there. I'm Polina Groman. I'm a serial entrepreneur, transformational coach specifically for female entrepreneurs that are scaling their businesses and that are looking to do big things in the world. That's me.
Very cool. I appreciate you taking the time to get on here today. And there's a couple of things that we'll go over, which is just the typical questions we ask. And because everybody's business is different. One of the biggest things that we see is that whether it's men or women, it doesn't make a difference. I think that people look at entrepreneurs like, oh, you can do whatever you want with your time, you can go wherever, etc. And it's just not reality. The real picture is, okay, here's what it really takes. So I'd like to ask that question. So the picture of what did it really take to start the business, putting down a credit card, living with mom and dad, like the hard parts, right? Then getting all the way to traction where you're starting to say, oh, I see a repeat set of customers, revenue, things like that, that show you that it's working. What did it really take to get from that starting point, wherever that was, to traction?
For me, it was a decision when I was 15 years old, when I was in high school. We immigrated here from Russia when I was 10 years old, didn't speak a word of English. I asked my dad when I was in high school to buy me these new Nike sneakers. And he looked at me and he was like, look, I'm sorry, but we're never going to be able to afford that. We're not those people. And I'm like, but I really want them. Like, I do really, I do well in school. I take care of my sister. I do all my chores. I never break any rules. Why can't I have them? He was like, because you can never have that. And you just need to be okay with that. Like, we're just immigrants and that's how it's going to be. I went to sleep that night crying myself and saying, I'm going to figure out a way. I want to get those sneakers and I want my child ever to feel that. That's when it all started for me and it never stopped. I got an after school job working at McDonald's. And then when I was 19 years old, I decided to take an internship on Wall Street because my friends told me that people print money there. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. I mean, I was working 3 jobs then and going to college. So I decided to try it. I made more money as an intern that summer than both of my parents. I came home and I said, I'm dropping out of college. So it was equivalent to me probably killing them because in their opinion, if you don't go to college, you basically have no chance in life. So they told me if I choose to do that, I need to move out immediately. There's no coming home if I change my mind. And I said, yeah, I want to do it. And I'm not going to say it was all smooth sailing, but I think one thing that distinguishes people that are really successful from people that want to be successful is being very decisive. And when things go wrong, not giving up on the dream, not giving up on the vision, holding the space for things to develop before you see them physically, before you can touch them. And really, honoring yourself and just going all in, even on things that don't make sense, that you don't understand, that are really hard, that are out of your level of comprehension, because there's different levels. The levels never stop. But one thing consistently that I could tell you over 23 years that I've done, and I'm doing it now, is you can't compare yourself to other people. You can't play the victim, when things go wrong. You really have to decide, like, I'm going to be successful no matter what. However, these are my set of values and these are my non-negotiables. These non-negotiables don't only apply to other people, they apply to me as well. If you don't have those really strong boundaries in place, the game will knock you out because people think that things get really tough when you become successful, but things get really tough in between. There's always that in between time when you're doing it, you're seeing evidence of it, but your bank account is not showing that just yet, right? And it may seem like you want to jump ship to another shiny object, that you may want to focus on something else really quickly. Women are very, very multifaceted. They do have ability, and there's not I've worked with some phenomenal men in my life in different projects. Nothing wrong with men. I'm not against men. I think that they're phenomenal men that I learned from. My mentor is a male, so nothing against men, but women have an ability to multitask and to intuitively do a lot of things. We don't know how to navigate that ability. So a lot of times we will take on more things than we can handle on our plate because we want to please everyone.
Yeah.
And then we're living in a state of being resentful. So one thing that I would say consistently that has served me, that has continued to serve me, is make that commitment to yourself, that unwavering commitment, but don't forget who you are, because it's very easy to get lost in
Yeah.
that, entrepreneurial shuffle. And you can become successful, much, much more successful than you could even imagine, because there's different levels to it all, right? And but just don't forget why you're doing this and who you are at the same time, because that's just as important as the monetary gains that will surely come your way when you line up your vision, your unwavering belief that you won't stop, and your dedication. When you line those things up with a skill set, you will succeed, no questions asked, regardless of the business. But if you waver on the values, you will be tested in a completely different way, where at every level you will be tested. So the work never stops. Work on yourself doesn't stop. And the work is good. You want to welcome that. You want to welcome the opportunity to get to know yourself, because as a woman, you have a lot of layers. You have a lot of skill sets. You have a lot of gifts. And no one teaches us how to, tap into those parts of ourselves. And if you don't allow yourself to fail, to cry, to fall down, to get up, and not to attach your worth to it. Because a lot of times we'll be like, I failed, I miserably failed at XYZ, and I don't want to do it anymore. That's not an attitude of a winner, whether you like, Kobe Bryant or not. But as an athlete, he was a phenomenal athlete, because so was Michael Jordan. So if you look at any phenomenal athlete, it's not just a skill, it's that dedication of waking up and just going at it and going at it, no matter, no matter what's happening. And, for a lot of women, what I see that come to me in a coaching space is they're successful in a traditional sense. They've hit those six figures, and they don't understand that in order to go to the next level, you actually have to let go. And that's a really, really hard notion to wrap our brains around, because women like to control things. Women for generations were taught that it's our job to nurture everyone. So we want to help everybody and their families and their cousins and our high school friends, right? And when you get into that trap of want to help everyone, you're actually not helping anyone, because you're operating in a state of lack, because you are controlling. When you let go, and again, you need systems and processes, to go to 0 to 6 figures, 100%. But past that, you need to learn to really starting to trust yourself and starting to say no. And that's a whole different skill set. Saying no to opportunities, saying no to things that don't serve your soul. Yes, they may be profitable, but profit over values, profit over who you are as a human being is a very, very tough lesson, because again, of who we are, we're wired that we want to help and we want to give and we want to serve. I had to go through an illness to learn this lesson. And I could tell you that without a shadow of a doubt, that learning to say no is one of your greatest tools in hitting financial levels that you can't even imagine that you could hit, because you will be in integrity with who you are and things will just come so much easier.
That's so crazy. Yeah, like 1,000% for everything that you said. And you just kind of covered, hey, you're going to keep getting this tap on the shoulder, this lesson, even from the beginning when you're on the way up, and it's going to continue to be there, until you learn that lesson. Or like for me, it became a punch on the shoulder, then it became a truck running me over. And then you're like, okay, maybe I don't know what the lesson is, but something's talking to me and I got to pay attention, so I do want to say that I liked your comment about the multitasking thing, because I just learned I'm a very like empirical science-based person. So the reason scientifically that women are multitasks, or that we're able to multitask better, is because of our size of our corpus callosum. So it's a part of our brain that basically means
Yep.
that we're able to go back and forth from the left and right hemisphere. So creative data, as often as we want to, very effectively, so that's part of that. Like, am I going to be chasing a goal, or am I creating something? And so then, if you're like me, then you're like finding stuff to fill up your time with all the time, instead of like taking a chill pill. So yeah, it's scientifically proven. It's not, we're just talking about it. And then we're other focused, you know what I mean? That's, again, not just taught or learned behavior, but also just part of the way, it's also mainly learned behavior, but part of the way that we are is that we edit ourselves, or we edit our behaviors and words and things, so we can control our actions, our words, and our perceptions of whatever is in front of us. And we control that because we're other focused, and we want to control those things to appeal, and not be told no, and not be told, that you're not acceptable, or whatever. And so like, that's part of us that we have to kind of, like you said, turn off and create boundaries and be very specific with, like, what we don't need to do that. We instead can figure out who we are and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. And so I have this challenge actually in my life right now, and I'm sure other ladies and men that are listening to this later, like they're going to hopefully say, yeah, me too. Where, for example, you kind of take a step back and you go, I'm okay with money. I'm comfortable. So I don't need to do this. And I don't really know these people. And normally when I like look at a partner, for example, that's been my biggest like scary thing I've gone through. I didn't have a scarcity mindset going into it. I was like, just partner with whoever. And then that bit me hard. So now I'm kind of a little more reserved, but, trying to figure out like, why did these people come to me? Like, I don't really know them. Normally I travel with a partner, or we go through some stuff and I see how they react in a bad situation, or like how they deal with stress. Is that good for me in my life and what I'm trying to accomplish with being, on my vision, on my mere peaceful, proud, influential, confident, like, are these things that they're doing, is that good for me? And so 100%, it's really hard, I think, personally, in maybe America, or I don't know, maybe with the hustle phase of building something, to kind of take a step back sometimes and be able to go, does this align with my boundaries? Does this align with what I want to create? Are we on the same train? So I'm kind of, yeah, I'm running a deep search background check, on everybody to decide if I want to do it, because I can actually, anyway. But point is like, you always have to kind of try to look at things that way. So how did you find your boundaries? How did you find those things where you could say for sure, yeah, like there's the fork in the road, no and yes?
Well, for me, it wasn't graceful. It was, I would do absolutely anything and everything to generate revenue. So I learned really early on that like cash is king. Whatever you're doing in a startup, I got into the startup world, had a recycling company. So my company used to pick up used cooking oil from restaurants and recycle it to biofuel. At that time, my husband and I, who was my boyfriend then just met, we were kind of doing this project together, and I just needed to prove myself in my mind. I needed to prove myself, and I needed to be a valuable asset. And I, you know, worked so hard and blah, 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 blah. We grew this company. And then one of our competitors, I negotiated the deal. I brought every buyer to the table when we were selling it as feedstock. And then the industry was changing very rapidly. And one of our competitors, I pitched him to buy the company, and he decided to go for it. We sold the company for 7 figures in under 18 months. I was so treated because I was a woman. And even though this person, I was living with this person in a serious relationship who later on I ended up marrying, I was treated like an assistant, like in all honesty. I was treated like an assistant. And I still didn't get it. We went into another business with similar situation. One day I fainted from exhaustion in a doctor's office and I broke my jaw and I couldn't speak. Jaw wired shut, 6 months, eating through a straw. That's when I noticed what a freaking pushover I was, what a people pleaser I was, I had no boundaries. Just whether you were the janitor or the CEO of another company, I treated you like you were 10,000 times better than me. It comes from my culture. When I was growing up, I was taught that that's how you respect people and that's how you treat them. And I had a lot of people on payroll, they didn't do anything. They were just friend of a friend. I felt bad for them because they had a family and blah, 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 blah. And again, in my personal relationship, I noticed how much I was doing and like getting nothing. When I say nothing in return, yes, I was being compensated financially, but like as a human being, it was a very disbalanced
Yeah.
thing. So I promised myself that when I could speak again, I'm going to speak my truth more. I'm going to be more honest. And I started doing that. It didn't go very well. It wasn't one of those things that read in a blog of like, oh, I found my voice and it was amazing. No, it was actually the opposite. By that time I was married already. Me and my husband started having problems because I was speaking up, because I didn't speak up for the first
Yeah.
10 years of our relationship. I was a pushover. My business partners would be like, who are you? Like, we don't like this person. You're loud, you're bitchy, you're this, like, all of these things that came with just me setting up the same boundaries that everybody already had in place. But just because they happen to be male and they kind of like understood each other, the same kind of ask that came from me was, completely misaligned, came in a different package. And I noticed that I would constantly and consistently feel bad. And I felt like maybe, I need to do more to prove that like I'm worth the seat at the table. And again, it was cultural upbringing, my childhood, other things that I needed to heal within myself. And what I started learning, I got really, really into personal development, and I started learning that there are no other people. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I learned in my life. I'm currently writing a book, and it's one thing that's I'm really big on is there are no other people. It's always you versus you. So if someone cheats you in a partnership, where are you being unfaithful to yourself? Having that radical, honest responsibility where like no one can hurt me, like because I'm in charge. When you start being that woman, not thinking of being her, not kind of trying it on for size as a dress, but really,
Yeah.
living from that space of integrity and having your non-negotiables. And for me, it started being like, well, like, look, like I'm not working on the weekends anymore, for example, because at that time I just had my first child and I was consistently pressured, to do things late evenings, which I didn't enjoy anyways, that I wanted to spend with my child. I was, laughed at. I was told by my partners that, oh, maybe you should go home and, fire your nanny. Maybe you should go home and play mommy and like all those kind of things. And those things came from my husband too, again, very like hurtful, confusing. And I felt like, you know what, like I'll go home and play mommy when I feel like it. But today, like I'm your business partner and this is just, I'm not going to work on the weekends since nobody else does. And I'm not going to do XYZ. And, things, it was a very difficult maze to navigate because when you are in a business relationship with your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or when a personal relationship is so intertwined in your business, it's heavy because you go home and you argue about these things and you have investors and there's money on the line. And, part of being a leader is you need to lead yourself. So people want to follow you, not because they're following you, but because they trust you, right? So it's a lot of those elements. And, I came to a point where I was diagnosed with a rare illness. Every doctor in the country told me that I would get progressively worse and potentially turn terminal. And I was like, I know that this is God speaking through me, that I need to start living from a space of my integrity. Like I know that my body is not sick, that it's my soul crying out to me. And it was again very difficult to go through that process because family members, friends, acquaintances were all like, you're ill, you need to stop working, you need to. And I was like, no, what I need to do is I need to invest money into personal development. I need to go on meditation retreats. I want to do XYZ, things that I would never allow myself to do because I felt that the business would fail if I wasn't. And it took me 3 years go against doctor's orders. And I'm not recommending anybody does this. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. You have to make decisions that fit your beliefs, right? But for me, that was a decision that I made. I didn't go the traditional route. It took me 3 years to heal myself from an illness that every doctor told me it's impossible. So when I saw that what is possible, like what is like, imagine if you could heal your body from that, what you could do with your business. I mean, your business becomes almost like a joke, right? Because you're like, when I become that type of a leader to myself, like, oh my God, what I could do, right? And I took losses. I took a $1.9 million financial loss. I'm not gonna say it was smooth sailing. Partnership blew up for not only because of this was like a 5% of that. Many things happened. We had other deals together. A lot of things were out of alignment, and money were owed to investors. I didn't feel comfortable how business was being run. I wanted to pull out. I wasn't given an opportunity. We went to court for 2 years, spent 6 figures litigating. We won the case, can't collect a penny on it.
Yeah.
You could do,
Been there,
you
done
could
that.
do, you could do all the due diligence that you want and background checks. It doesn't, these things happen.
Well, this is,
I mean, look,
ours is a little different because what it does is it traces the online footprint of the person their entire life. And so it traces from industry to industry, characteristics, behaviors, motivations, what they've done for their entire life. And like whoever does whatever, and even on the dark web and stuff that like is not public record, you can't find anywhere. And if you can trace someone's behavior pattern, you know exactly what they're going to do in the future. So it's a little different than just like,
I'm not saying don't do it, and I'm not saying it doesn't sound amazing, and I'm not saying I didn't wish maybe I had that, but I'm saying on a human level, right? You can't prevent what the lessons that are meant for you. And for me, I'm very grateful for all of it, because I realized that number one, I don't no longer want to stay in a marriage that doesn't support me as a woman. Number two, I will no longer do business with people that are just hustling and chasing money, no matter if they bring the unicorn of on a silver platter where I can 100x my return. I don't want it that way. And what I also learned is that most women wouldn't do it the way that I did it, because it's very scary, because I've been conditioned by men for so many years to act like a man. And I wanted to do coaching space because I wanted to teach women to stand up for who they were and to show them like how much power you have without even looking at your skill set, just being a woman, just using your intuition. I made more money on the stock market using my intuition without any rhyme or reason, just because I trusted myself, right? I made so many mistakes, but I've done well in so many other areas. And if I could put it all in a box, I have 2 kids, they're boys. And I know exactly why God gave me boys, because when I was a teenager and I would look at boys treating my friends bad, I wasn't allowed to date because my dad was very, very strict. But I would look at like, oh, this boy did this, or he did this to this girl or to my friend. I'll be like, one day when I'm going to have a son, I will treat him. I mean, I would teach him to be the best, the most amazing guy. And God gifted me 2 boys. So I know exactly why I have boys. But, if I had a daughter right now, my advice to her would be start early, just educating yourself on money. Do not be afraid of it. Like, money needs direction. And a lot of women don't understand that. Like, if you make $1, invest it. Learn your options. Money needs to work for you, because if you don't train your money to work for you, then you will always be working for your money, right? And also, it's okay to fail. It's okay to go through lawsuits. It's okay. It's part of, like, every successful person will tell you, oh yeah, like I've been through that. And we look at it as like, oh, it's this epic failure. Next time I'm not going to do that. Maybe next time you'll do it different, but you'll still have a similar experience. All of it boils down to to be successful. This is the initiations. the sleepless nights, the tears, the lawsuits, the backstabbing partners, the maybe personal relationships falling apart, maybe not, not everybody has to go through that. But you need to say to yourself, like, I'm okay with all that because my mission in life is so much bigger than all of it. And I won't quit if you knock me down. I won't quit if I have to lose a best friend. I won't quit if the deal didn't make the return because I believed in it. And most importantly, I will not speak down to myself. I will not belittle myself. I will not allow myself to get depressed. Yeah, I can have a breakdown. Sure, I'm human. But I won't allow myself to stay there because there's way too many people that I can help by keep on walking forward. When you make it about other people, not about money, not about you, not about, oh my God, how could they do this to me? But when you're like, there are millions of people that I can help just by being myself, just by taking one foot in front of the other, failing and getting up and walking toward where I know I'm needed, because people are watching you. They're watching you quietly on social media. They're watching you quietly in your business. Some people won't raise their hand for 2 years. I had clients that never commented on my posts, never reached out to me. And 2 years later, they're like, I saw a video that you did, from a year ago, and it really touched me. And I wasn't ready, but I am now. And I know that, like, you're my person, right? Don't do it for someone to clap for you, because in the beginning, no one's going to clap for you.
That's right.
Right?
You just keep going. You just keep going. Like, I've got this group and it's just like people leave and come and leave and come. And I'm like, this is how we're doing it. This is what I see changing. We're different than everybody else. That's okay. And you keep. Yep.
But there's one thing that I wish I would have learned earlier on. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not gonna. PR is really, really important, because there are people that are doing things that they don't care about, and they're monetizing because more people know about them.
Right.
And I learned that from Grant Cardone, actually, that, he was in personal development for 20 years before, like, really big. And when he understood the power of PR, like getting in front of as many people as you can, being in every publication, putting yourself on that billboard, do it, because when people are like, what's the ROI of PR? And I'm right now, just literally this month joined as a partner in a PR syndicate for this reason, because I realized that when you can light fire, not just social media, but real fire, like imagine if you were on a billboard right now, like what that will do for your business. Just, the magnitude of going big, not theoretically, but really, right? Because people will come and go, and that's fine, right? Building that tribe of 1,000 loyal fans that will go and promote you everywhere, that's the foundational piece. Things soar from a sort, again, 0 to 6 figures is hard because you're building it brick by brick. 6 to 7, you can't do the same thing. And past 7, it's a whole different, it's actually removing yourself from the business as much as you possibly can at that level, and putting more people and processes in place that are going to mess with you, that are going to break your systems, that are going to make you take losses. There are no perfect partners, because we're flawed. We will always be flawed humans, right? And as you level up as a woman, you will notice better quality people being more attracted to you, because the more you heal, right, and the more you take responsibility for that healing, the more you realize that, like, okay, like, as an example, if a woman says to me, I always attract men that are cheaters.
Right.
Okay, so, like, where are you cheating on yourself? Yeah. So are you making a commitment to yourself? If you see a pattern, to leave immediately. Once you make that commitment, you won't attract cheaters, because there'll be no synergy, right? Like, you won't be a victim anymore. They can't play the narcissist. There's nothing in it for either one of you, so there won't be attraction, right? Everything is energy. Everything attracts, like attract like, and a lot of times opposites attract, to see if you really learned the lesson. And in business is the same way, right? Yeah. So, like, if you want to raise a certain amount of money, right, and you're speaking, let's say, to people that, that invest a certain amount, can you put yourself out there in front of people that you think will never invest with you, that will think, like, will laugh you out of the room because they're at that level? Like, can you take the emotional disappointment Because if you say yes and
Yeah.
you do it once, twice, 10 times,
Uh-huh.
and you don't emotionally get disappointed anymore, guess what? These people will look at you as their peer. Even though your business can be like a tiny fraction of theirs, but that action of showing up that way for yourself and building leverage around it, like your network becomes obviously your net worth, which we all hear all the time, right? Your network. But how do you build a network if you're just starting out? How do you build it so they come, right? By first selling the idea to yourself. Like you are your first toughest critic. When you sell the idea to yourself that like, I'm going big, like the goal is 10 million, like, let's go. Like, who do I need to speak to get me there? Who do I need to get in front of? And by the way, like literally saying to yourself, like, they're gonna laugh at me. They're gonna think, and they're not gonna like it. They're gonna think I'm too early. They're gonna think I'm too
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Right. And still doing it, still showing up with the same level of excitement, with the same, you will see that the people at that level, like they'll start paying attention to you. They'll be like, like we already said no to her 500 times.
Yep.
Keeps on coming to this, you know, maybe there's something there. Maybe I could
Yeah.
introduce her to this person, like literally like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. That's how I got a billionaire-ess on this show. Just like, I'm gonna keep doing
Yeah.
it until you say no, like seriously. And then that's how I raise money. And then after this, yeah. You answered all the questions that we normally ask, but just fluidly through your story. So this has been an awesome session. Like my skin's crawling, and I really appreciate some of the things that you've said. If those that are watching and listening to this later really like replay it and listen. I know that it's kind of hard when you haven't lived through some of that stuff, and some of the things you said too, I haven't yet lived through. So I was really trying to listen and put myself in your shoes and imagine, again, 6 figures to 7 figures, etc. Like what would that feel like, and what's coming, and how do I prepare myself? And I just, this is an unbelievable session, Polina. I really appreciate your time and your patience, to get on here and figure this out. How can anyone that's listening or watching later get a hold of you to work with you?
Sure. My website is super. You can find me on IG, Polina Groman, just, my name, and my information is there. You can go to polinagrow.com and check out me there. My biggest thing as a takeaway that I want to leave everyone listening to is whatever you think you could do, 3x it in your mind, like right now. If you think you could hit this number, just 3x it, because if you have a bigger goal, you will get to your real goal a lot quicker, right? So if you wanted to make 100K a year, say I want to make 300K a year, like right away, 3x it first, and then 5x it from there. Because if you convince yourself that you could do this, and immediately you're like, nope, I could do this. Nope. Your brain will start jumping like that in every decision. You want, that's a like a muscle, right? You want to condition yourself to consistently outperform yourself and take radical responsibility for everything, as like literal, like, what's the lesson here? It's not about those people, they're just here to teach me. And the lesson is really to love yourself deeper, uh, at the levels that you don't want to look at. Love the failures, love everything that you think is dumb, that how can I make this dumb mistake? How could I allow this to happen? Because you're human, and that's okay. And the people that will follow you and want to invest with you and want to work with you in any capacity, they want that. They don't want the curated social media of how perfect
Yeah.
you are and all the other trinkets, because everyone's doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to stand out, grace to yourself for all the failures, and 3x whatever you're thinking immediately, and then go from there. Because it's easy to say just 10x this, just 100x's. We're not conditioned that way. So manufacture safety by taking bigger leaps and just go, like quicker decisions, quicker time frames of, don't think about it. Feels good, feel into it in your heart and just go. You fail, you get up. It's not gonna hurt as much next time. You scrape your knees as a child, right? Once, twice, and the 10th time, you're like, whatever, right? Kids don't think about things for so long. They don't. Just be that child. Allow yourself to that grace. And as a woman, oh my God, the type of power that you have. Like, you cannot even imagine. How old are you?
32.
Oh, hope it's okay that I'm asking. 32, 33,
Yeah.
33. I'm turning 42 in in 2 weeks. So I could tell you this, 33 is a Jesus year. I'll just leave you with that. In across every religion, across every myth and theology, it says that at 33 we have a big, huge transformation. That's when I broke my joy to find my voice. I know a lot of women that stepped out of their shadow. I know a lot of women that were able to shed relationships that didn't serve them, right? Prepare for that year as your initiation into where you want to be, right? And just go at it all the way.
You got it. Polina, thank you so much for being on here today,
Yes.
everybody. This has been Number One Leading Ladies. Please follow, like, share this episode, particularly because I feel like I've learned quite a bit, and I'd like other people that are listening and watching to learn as well. Thank you for uplifting other women, Polina. I really appreciate it. And everybody tune in to Number One Leading Ladies next week.